So I just got off the train at the Northhaven station, and honestly I'm not sure where we are, but that building is interesting because it has some protrusion of boxes that's all glass against the monolithic volume. And we are here to check out another Cobe project, and I hope that this is the way. Okay, I don't see any sidewalk or people walking by. I think it's better to take this way. So I guess this is another one of those unsure walks in Copenhagen. So if I'm correct, this area is also, or was, an industrial area as well. If I'm correct, this zone is or was an industrial park before, and now it's being transformed into a residential thriving community. And we see a lot of interesting housing buildings like this one. You can see that the interior structure is concrete, and then it's clothed by mesh, and it allows vegetation to climb onto the building. And of course the building's broken by these volumes of balconies around it. So these industrial materials are being allowed to express themselves truthfully, and then allow nature to creep in. So who would have thought that this was an industrial area? Because it feels like, at least this particular street, it's very attractive. It's neighborly, it's mostly pedestrian. Of course you have an area for vehicular traffic, and yet it's a very relaxing stroll. And that's a very nicely designed small building. And of course you can see the terminus, not really the terminus, from afar, an all white condominium buildings, straightforward, just post lintel with those frames framing the balcony, and it just glows because of the sunlight. And on my right is an all steel apartment, again made of rusting cladding. So I would say that the architects in this neighborhood are very creative. They're able to express themselves. So this is not a high-rise area, so they control the height. Probably this is one of the tallest. And then again you have that mini open spaces between these two mid-rise buildings, and that is a commercial building. They call it Hamburg Plaids or Plaids. And that's another building behind it that is interesting, cylindrical in shape. So now we approach, not yet, but we can recognize those facades, and I have a feeling that it is part of the building that we are going to visit, which is already in sight, the Silo by Cobe. So we're not sure if the same architect, but obviously it has the same design language. So let's carefully cross. So many interesting buildings here, like even the simple box shaped apartments are well designed with different finishes. And so is this one. It's just this more is textural because of the recess of the balconies. And then of course those window apertures, openings, reminds me of Viewpoint, my own project. And that is aluminum cladding of panels. And of course you have this again all steel building with a nice staircase And look at the silo by Cobe, really glowing. So the facade is made of galvanized steel, and you can see that there are some perforations. So with the sunlight, it's just glorious to look at. So it used to be a silo, like just a vertical concrete structure for grains. And when they rehabilitated it, or revive it, or redevelop it, they introduced these volumes protruding out. So right now there are 38 apartments, if I'm not mistaken, with different heights of ceilings. So you have high ceiling, you have low ceiling, and then they added these galvanized steel protrusions or forms to create this interesting texture and forms from the outside, as compared to its just monolithic character before. So they punch holes to create those windows, and then randomly they provided those balconies clad in galvanized steel. And I saw some pictures how these modules were hoisted up to their respective apartments. And then the architects claim that the ground level is commercial or public, and so is the topmost level, providing the public an opportunity to view Copenhagen. We are at the side, so let's see if we can actually access this place, because it feels very private. I understand for the residential, but if the architects claim that it's meant to be public. So this is up close of the neighboring building. And this is the side area of the silo. And again, how they celebrate industry, the heritage of it. And the architects want the residents to feel and appreciate the industrial heritage of this area. So you can see the galvanized steel and how it's screwed, and then you can see the steel support inside, and then how they create these forms on the wall that folds. So, and then basically when you see the interiors of this place, they maintain the bare concrete finish inside, and then the framing of the windows are actually outside, so that when you're inside, the concrete forms are preserved, so you just have holes. So again, this doesn't feel very public, but you know, it's really a photogenic building. So unfortunately this doesn't feel very public to me, but I'm really admiring the forms, the protrusions coming from this angle, because you rarely see a scale of this kind of triangular forms or angular forms in this scale and proportion. And of course it looks massive, and then when they put them together, just sculptural, almost like a natural formation in a cave. But of course it's not, and you know, it's man-made. And yet, since the randomness of it creates that impression. And this is the lobby, and then you can see that the folding is also happening inside. I don't know if you can see the interior. And this is probably the entrance to the private residence, and I don't expect us that we'll be able to visit inside, but you can see it's concrete. They celebrate concrete. Then they have warm furniture and area rug to warm it up, and some murals on the concrete wall, and then they still preserve the studs, the holes of the industrial silo. This is the concrete wall, and that's another window. So even the lighting is very industrial, but when you look at it from afar, it looks so well composed, polished, but the moment you look at the details, you appreciate the industrial character of it. So to enter the restaurant, you have to go through this door. So probably just another view of the lobby of the residence. beautiful lobby, and you can see that even the ceiling is concrete, so everything is just inserted like foreign objects in the space, the area rugs, the warm furniture, and just the mural as an intervention on the existing structure. So you can see how thin the profile of the building is. Probably this is 6, 6, 12 or probably 18 meters. So this is the entrance to the Silo restaurant, and unfortunately, I don't know, sorry, this one is the entrance to the Silo. So there's an elevator that you have to take to go up. So since we're not allowed to go inside, let's just appreciate the surrounding, particularly the other buildings, because this neighborhood is very interesting. How I wish BGC has architecture that is well detailed and well crafted, such as these ones, because you know, of course, you have the silo. This building is really interesting, and that all steel building, and then they have, you know, conditions like this wherein you have conventional buildings, well designed, well detailed, and then a building that is tilted diagonally that creates that interesting view and becomes a vista of this area. So if we walk towards it, and then of course let's turn around and appreciate the silo. So you can see how big the windows are, and I read that some of the units are 7 meters high. So you can, I don't know if you can see it, I'll try to zoom in into the video, but they preserve the concrete. They just create holes, and then the frames is actually separated from the actual silo structure. So you can say that this is a dress, an overcoat of the entire building. So it's not really the silo, but they preserve the verticality of it. So in this trip, we actually noticed that this country likes to use a lot of industrial materials because it ages well, and they want buildings to be long lasting, because modern architecture has the impression to be cold and it's not really timeless. But these are the attempts that architects do in order to create a longer lasting architecture. So one of the things that I noticed are the perforated steel they use on the facade. It's either to create some lightness to it, and then create an image, and it's interesting that it also has that foliage on the wall interspersed with these horizontal volumes. So this is probably a private garden with retail at the ground. Not a lot of human activity, maybe because, well, it's a Sunday, but I would assume that is a commercial area. And this is a staircase of what seems to be a parking, because I don't see anything inside, and I see a person going up. There's probably a park upstairs. So we'll try to access it later on, or maybe now. So since this is an accidental walking experience already, we might as well, right? So like I said, they like using industrial looking materials. So we have a steel steps, and then steel here. So if you notice, it's actually dirty, and it doesn't matter, because like what I've been saying, if you have a very strong architecture, even if it's dirty or aged, it's actually okay. So this is actually a parking facility, and what we've been learning is that they provide a lot of social spaces, public spaces for the public in their buildings, even if it's private, and this is one of them. They are very generous to it, so it's something that we can emulate and hopefully copy, and it's more evident than ever. So this is not steel, so I was mistaken. It's probably colored concrete, because I can see the imperfections. So definitely is an exercise area. because I can feel my breath already. And a nice door with perforations again, and I'm sure the view at the rooftop will be nice, hopefully as nice as Copenhagen. But how can you beat Copenhagen? It's so high. Okay, this only proves that I need more exercise. Okay, because the lady behind me is catching up. Okay, 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 okay. So I can see Copenhagen from here. Can you see it? And then we have a nice park, a really nice park, all red. The redness of this is even stronger than Super Killing. And you see that nice circular cylindrical building with a nice facade, so they like the folding here a lot. And then you have the silo, what used to be a grain silo, now beautiful work of architecture. So so even if you're living at the uppermost floor and then you're overlooking this playground, it feels as if it's very accessible. It's part of your building, and we are truly living in the skies. And then we have nicely designed, built sitting areas, and then even the landscaping is well coordinated. It's curated to be color red. So so this is Northhaven. So from afar you will see another architecture, work of architecture being constructed with all those angles. I wonder what that is. We'll try to Google it later. And another housing project with all those green colored tiles, a nice roof deck area. Sometimes it makes me think that they might have an oversupply of open spaces, but you know, an oversupply is always good than the lack of it. So let's appreciate the silo, and that's the restaurant, and it's another white apartment and the cylindrical building. So we can see some foliage peering through the perforations, so it's not only creating those playful light effect on the wall, but it allows the vegetation to penetrate through the space. And you can see that some of it's actually wooden deck inside the balcony, and most of them are lived in already. You can see some sitting areas, some planters, and it's so nice to see it from the top, so because it gives you a more lived in perspective. So the protrusions, how it is formed with the diagonal facets, it feels as if you are being cradled like in a hammock type of situation. So when you look at it up close, especially the openings and the edges and the ridges, it's actually not enclosed. There's some gaps between it, so to allow movements probably. So let's go down. So I just had an exercise, literally and figuratively. I had an exercise, a work exercise for my students. I'm currently teaching high-rise structures, but one of the skills that I introduced was for them to design a building, a car park building for that matter, because it's very tricky to plan, and it's a most neglected layout exercise in school. So that's why I thought that before you design a skyscraper, design the parking first, because you have to deal with the ramp, we have to deal with the flow, and where to access it better. So little did I expect that I'll encounter interestingly designed car parks that is mindful of the city, mindful of the citizens. It's not only functional but also interestingly designed, and you saw the foliage on the other side, so it doesn't feel very industrial, it doesn't feel very back of the house. And even if it feels very urban, you know, it's a welcoming space for the city dwellers. So again, this is how the plant is climbing on the wall, and I wonder how often they clean the area. But definitely I appreciate the experience, although it's such a work to climb up. There's an elevator actually, but I prefer the stairs because I want to burn as many calories as I can. So let's go to this side, and I want to see silo again because this is the intention of our trip here, to see the silo. Just really nice foliage on the wall, and look at that. So the area is still under development, much like Orestad, but you can say since the size of this is pretty manageable, I think you see some built areas already, and some commercial establishments already thriving, I would say. So they use a lot of industrial materials, but they balance it with a lot of wood. But what's nice with this country is that they don't have a lot of rain. That's why they don't deal with the maintenance too much of wood. This is a nice brick apartment with, you know, modern sensibilities of providing indoor open public space. So definitely the brick makes it warm, but you can see that the windows, the perforations, even the color are very modern. And when I say sensibility, actually this is stay apartment. Yeah, it's an apartment. It's very modern in their sensibility. They also use some steel mesh. So we are viewing the silo from here, and obviously there's an office. So let's just allow me to take a photo of that. So it's framing the view of this building. So, and a video. So there it unfolds to you. So you can see that even these buildings try to react to this building. So again, you see the gaps. I don't know if they have earthquakes here, but the gaps provided allowance for movement. That's the parking. These are the perforations, and beautifully designed. That's why when you have an industrial material like this, you know, you can get away with this because it's very industrial. So I'm interested in the other building beside it, and you can see some neighboring building under construction. So this is another lobby. So they have two lobbies. So you can see the concrete finish. So I don't know what axis this is for, but definitely it's part of the silo. Again, another rusting concrete, and according to the architects, this will rust eventually to create, maybe not rust, but will create a certain, it will patinate over time. So this is the neighboring building with a more gentler window framing as compared to this one, which is very expressive. And the one that we saw from afar is actually made of bricks with, you know, very straightforward boxy balconies made of steel volumes. So that is actually very strong, because that's what I noticed from afar. And then so you have a brick volume, and then you have some glass protruding out. So that's how the architects intended it. So, and that is the white building. So I don't know if we can still discover something interesting from this neighborhood, because I think this is it. I think I've seen most of what they have so far, but this is a neighborhood to look out for. So this is a neighborhood we look forward to seeing develop further. Hopefully more retail areas to enliven the streetscape. And that's where we enter from the subway. So it's very connected. Because I've always been curious about, you know, making the ground level more human in scale and measurement, because normally when you have a ground floor you tend to make the ceiling higher. So this is not the case with this building. It feels more welcoming, definitely. Maybe it works with the scale of this building, with the entire massing of it, but maybe when it's bigger it's a little unproportioned. But in this case, since there are 5 units only, kind of works. And again, we are on the other side of that building we encountered on the way to Silo. Really nice. And again, this is a pedestrian area. This is the view of the street, and you can see how dynamic the roof lines are. Although some of them are boxy, but since it's positioned a certain way, it feels as if it's slanted, the roof line I mean. And then this is the street, and those are residential apartments also, again with all those roof lines. Reminds you of an industrial area. Pretty interesting neighborhood. So I came from that area where the silo is, and I'm being tempted to check out that skyscraper, because it's really interesting. So it's wanting to have a volume with perforations or random windows. These are random windows, but they are protruding. Maybe not the newest idea, but it's my first time to see it in an actual building. So we might need to cross the highway. I don't know if this will stay as is. I'll probably clad it with another material. We are still at Northhaven. So there it is, looming over the skyline. Oops, I think, sorry. Sorry. So this is the pathway for the bicycles, and this is the pedestrian. But the lady just went ahead anyway. So there you go, that building that we are going to explore in a known neighborhood. So if you know the name of that building, let me know, because I'm supposed to go back to Copenhagen Central Station, and yet that caught my attention. So we are again in a neighborhood that I'm very unfamiliar with, but I assume this is part of Northhaven, and the sun is shining from there. So I think it's better to see the building from that side, so that way it's not against the light. Here it is. So I just turned right from that street, and then now I'm seeing this building. Wow. It's one of those schemes that they did in The Sims, I think Sims 2, wherein they, or 3, wherein they allow you to create your own building and create a business out of it. And then you can see those protrusions. Some of it are personalized and lived in already. I can see clothes hanging, but it's not a balcony that's open to the elements. It's still enclosed. The windows are fixed, but wow, this is, I love this building a lot because it's so expressive of the material around it. It's called Charlotte Haven, and I wonder who the architects is. And they still use aluminum, or I don't know if it's galvanized steel. I don't know the difference anymore, but definitely a steel facade. And then you have those protrusions. Again, I guess it's supported by I-beams with steel cladding. So this same conditions happen here. They have a very neighborly alley here to access the apartment. So that's the entrance, the tower. So just appreciating it up close. And then you can see that there are some areas of the facade and the horizontal bars that are open. They're kept open because it's actually a scenic elevator, because I just saw that box moving. So so welcome, happy to see you, stand fine. Okay, So I guess somehow if they have this signage, it's welcoming in a way. So of course I'm not expecting to access that I'll be allowed to access it, but at least we can be in the entrance area. Again, very warm interior and very neighborly feel, because somehow these protruding boxes makes it more human and neighborly and charming, because it scale down the scale it brings down the scale to smaller size. So you have if you have those horizontal, you have those smaller windows, random windows. So that's the scenic elevator. So they have a very humble entrance, not concealed, but that's how you enter. And if I live here, I'd feel very, very homey because of this situation here, this setting. So that again, secured by steel, and such a lovely apartment with a nice architecture in a neighborhood that I'm not sure what is. So I guess it is divided. This is the podium area that has residential apartments as well, maybe. Yeah, it's residence, because I can see a homey lighting over there, and then you have the vertical pillar. Okay, so let's try to look at it from the other side again. So this is a really interesting condominium, and I would love to hang out in those protruding volumes. So again, that the area of the silo is over there, and we are here on the other side, and that's the metro. So again, this is another side trip going to the silo, and thank you for watching. I hope you like and subscribe.